from the Southampton joiners, Mandy Betts. I think actually Ben Lovett actually said, and I think this is the thing, because he was basically saying if we leave taste making in music just to algorithms and streaming services, then we run the danger of our future culture being curated by robots. Which I think is a really good point. It's true though, isn't it? Southampton Joiners has a great reputation for putting on bands who are going somewhere or are worth a look.
Yeah, obviously, excuse me, probably more so in previous years. I think the last person who became, or the last person to play the Joiners who became extraordinarily big was Ed Sheeran. And we haven't had anybody through since then that's really made it so huge. But of course we do have the wonderful Creeper, who are obviously getting very well known and are huge supporters of the Joiners as well.
I mean, but there's something which just says if you're doing that tour, there is a certain tour which's got, you know, maybe Club E for back on it, and it's got venues around the country. If I see a band like Blinders doing that tour and they're stopping off at the Joiners, I think there's something happening here. And I came down to see Catfish and the Bottlemen at the Joiners on that same sort of tour on the way up, and you just think, all right, I get it. If they're doing that, then basically the venue's done some of the work for us, and you know, it's endorsed what I'd sort of previously only suspected, that there's something going on here, I think. But I mean, the reputation thing is important because you then have to sort of build some sort of trust with your audience, don't you? I guess the local audience.
Yeah.
You don't want three stinkers, and they're going to think twice about coming.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we have a really, really loyal following. We're really lucky. Not that everybody goes out probably as much as they used to, and of course, you know, you can debate it to the end of the planet, but a huge amount of young audiences do save a huge amount of money for the festival season, which is when we really suffer. But I think to sum up, because, you know, I started to lose heart a bit, because we really are crucified for those 3 or 4 months of the year, and we really struggle to recover. And last year, in June, all of a sudden, I just said to Ricky Bates, who you probably all know, I'm sure, our promoter, our roof is leaking. We're going to struggle to pay the rent. I have no idea how we are going to get through the summer, and I don't know what to tell people. We're going to have to crowdfund, and we've never done it. And within 48 hours, we got the crowdfunding up and running. We asked for $2,500 to fix the roof. We had that in 2.5 hours. In 3 weeks, we had £9,500. So it just shows that the loyalty is there. A lot of it from the history of the place. You know, even people that don't go anymore. I can sit on a plane going to the States, and I'll sit next to somebody and they'll go, oh, the Joiners, I went to university in Southampton, loved the place, you know. So, and that funding came from all over the country. Anywhere from like a £5 to one person who put in £1,000. And obviously it was boosted by the wonderful Frank Turner. You know, so sometimes when I just go, okay, maybe it isn't as important as I think it is, and then something like that happens, you realise how you just have to keep these doors open.
Again, this is something for everyone sitting around here. How much does it basically take over your life?
How much?
Does it take over your life being involved in a venue like this?
Well, the daytime I have a lot of animals, so I kind of concentrate on them, and night times I just don't sleep thinking about where the next bill is going to be paid from. Yeah. So yeah, it does. It's always there in the background. That I've kind of been able to learn to live after 4 years now, because I just do all the financial side of things. I've kind of been able to live with the fact that there is some kind of good ghost at the Joiners, that somehow something will happen and it will get paid. And so far that has been, you know, it's been the case. Everybody says, you know, there's an angel looking over the place. It's certainly not my bank manager, but it does seem to manage to just, you know, it just manage to keep going, but there is always a concern. And I'm surrounded by people who have no concept, and they'll admit it, they've got no concept of money and budgets and what it takes and what it costs. And because I'm kind of good at pulling things out of the bag, if I say I can't pay the business rates, they go, yeah, and then I'll lay awake and worry about it for a week before I come up with some kind of solution. So there is a lot, there is a lot of that on me, and it does, it is a concern, but it's just something I've learned to live with.
Something else which was a concern, which we were talking about before coming out here, is dealing with agents and the attitude of agents. Again, you're down on the south coast, bands come in, they might do a 12-date tour, they might miss you out. You've got to compete to get bands, and I don't know what your relationship is like with agents down at the Joiners. You see, in my head, I would think, it must be really good because it's a great little venue, and you're shaking your head.
It's very hard. It's a very sensitive subject. When we first came in 4 years ago, my husband has rehearsal rooms, and he always wanted, for so long he's wanted a venue. So then the Joiners came up, the business came up at the Joiners, and we took a huge leap of faith. It was massively in debt. We're still paying the debts off now 4 years later. So I bought the business and then found out that nobody actually knew how to run it. So I ended up getting as involved as I did. And our promoters used to say, I'd say, can you send out a letter to all the agents and just say it's under new management, the bills are going to be paid, we need to rebuild the relationship, nobody's going to get upset anymore. And he said, they won't read it. And I said, well, we'll do it anyway. He said, yeah, but they won't read it. And then something came up and I had to have a conversation with one of them, and they were just incredibly rude. And I said, Ricky, I'm at the time 49. I'm from a very professional background. I used to earn an awful lot of money, and I work with very polite people. Why are they being so rude to me? And he said, because they don't care. And I said, but why do you put up with it? And he said, because for 2 reasons. One of them is because obviously you want to keep the venue going, and secondly, because we are actually outside what is now quite a small touring area where they stop at Bristol or they'll stop at Brighton. So for 2 reasons, I have to take it. I just have to take it. And, but he said, but I'm fine with that. If anybody knows Ricky Bates, he bounces off the walls. You cut him open, it'll be Joiners through and through. He lives and dies for the venue. It's probably cost him ever owning his own house or having a stable relationship. 4 years later, he's actually saying to me, do you know what? I was so upset they did that. I've put so much work into that. I've moved probably a 60% capacity to other venues to accommodate these agents whose bands I've actually got onto festival stages this year who probably shouldn't even have been there. And I get these 2 promised sellout shows, and I say, okay, you've got to confirm in 24 hours. A week later, I've heard nothing. I went back, and the assistant said, no, one of them's not touring anymore, and the other one, the manager booked it, and the band didn't want to do a warm-up show. So I said, ring his boss. He said, oh, no, you won't listen. And I said, ring his boss. Well, so he did, and his boss said, what bands? So my promoter, who is literally the lifeblood of the Joiners, is now at the point of saying, I feel really shit on. And do you know, if I'd had to put my last penny on that never having happened, I would have, but it has. And so I don't know if it's because he's a little bit older now or whatever, and he's put so much work into this, and he puts so many hours into this, and he earns next to nothing. And then and he does everybody favours, he works himself stupid, and there is no loyalty. He feels that there is no loyalty.
Not just no loyalty, but maybe lack of understanding, do you think?
Absolutely, and as we were saying downstairs, what we think would be a really, really good, maybe a really good practice is that the assistants of the agents, as part of their training, actually get out onto the grassroots music venue, go and talk to the people in the venues that they're booking places in, go and understand what we're up against, and not just be somebody with a job at the end of a phone.
Well, maybe you could get Ricky to book them a tour, and then they can go on tour and learn what it's like as life on the road. And then maybe pull one of the dates the day before. Don't know. Years the Joiners has been going though. I mean, I know because when I came down with Six Music for Indie Venue Week and talking to Pat and basically, you know, him saying, you know, we might know that we're going to be able to pay the rent 2 days before the end of the month. So if we're lucky, we've got all the money in place with a week to go. Sometimes it's the night before. I mean, even given that, where do you see yourself going, and do you have a plan for the future apart from making sure you're there at the end of next month?
When I went to talk to Ricky the other night, and he was really low, and I said to him, look, you know, you're doing everything you can do, and I'm doing everything I can do, and neither one of us are doing anything wrong. He's very learned, he's got a huge amount of knowledge, he knows where to go, he knows what's coming, he knows what to book. You know, I know how to creatively run the books. So he,
everyone knows what that means, don't they?
Who doesn't? Who doesn't creatively know how to run the books of a grassroots music venue? So my accountant knows I creatively know how to run the books of a grassroots music venue. So, and I said to him, if the Joiners closes, Ricky, it's not going to be down to us. It will be market forces. That's all that's going to happen. It will be what it will be, but we're doing everything we can. There's no magic solution, but I think it's very clear what happened in 2000, up to about 2001, 2002, I'd seen the books, I'd seen the figures, and we are missing exactly a third of the revenue that used to come in then, and that's due to the festival season, to the agents locking the bands down. They can't play within 30 miles of the venue for 3 months, and it's getting bigger and bigger. So that's the chunk that we're missing, and that's the chunk that we need covered. And I think that there's a historical thought among people that give money away that we're all still making loads of money. Otherwise we wouldn't be in existence. But because of the way that the festivals have come along, we're not making that kind of money. And I even had to go to our landlord recently and say, look, the rent you were charging was based on this turnover. And he didn't understand that. And I said, and I did my facts and figures around the rents in Southampton, and I said, so theoretically, I can show you our turnover, which is a third less than it was when you were charging this rent. And bless him, he did drop the rent, not by a third, but by something, to bring it more in line. But continually having to go cap in hand to people, because the way things are at the moment, if we're not supported, and if people don't wake up, then us as a base stone isn't going to be there. And then what is everybody going to do?
Well, what are all the festivals going to do? I mean, this is a very good point. In fact, one we'll pick up with our next guest. In the meantime, Mandy Betts, everybody.